Said, I'm Michael Hussey, and I'm the National Archives curator for this exhibit. This morning I have the honor of leading you through an exhibit which chronicles Benjamin Franklin's life from his boyhood in Boston through his death in 1790. And so just keep this image in mind as we go through. This is a very vibrant man, both intellectually and physically, and we'll start with that. He was one of 11 children. Actually, his father had an additional 6 with his first wife, so 11 children. It was a very small house initially, about 20 square feet. I want to repeat, 20 square feet, which makes New Yorkers feel like their apartments are probably pretty spacious, right? Very small house. His father was a candle maker by trade. He too was successful enough so that fairly soon after young Benjamin was born, they were able to move to a much larger house, much to the relief of his mother, his father, and his family, I'm sure. It was published in 1733. This is a 1739 edition of the almanac. You may ask who Poor Richard was. Poor Richard was a pseudonym which Franklin used in this publication. He often used pseudonyms. It was sort of a technique employed by writers at the time, and he used this technique sometimes to say things indirectly, sometimes as satire, so that he could be once removed from perhaps the target of the satire. In this case, Poor Richard was the character he played. He also played or wrote characters like Silence Dogood. This is a fictional woman character in, this was one that he wrote for his brother's newspaper in Boston. Here we have one of the forms which would have been printed by Franklin's shop, which would have facilitated the sale of slaves. He also printed classified advertisements for the recovery of runaway slaves. He grew tired, as I did, of switching back and forth between reading and distance glasses. So what he did was he had his distance lenses cut in half, his reading lenses cut in half. When you think about it, it's absolutely obvious, right? And he had them put together so that he didn't have to take them on and off. These are not bifocals that Franklin actually wore. They are probably made in England around 1760, so they are definitely period. Loved to play chess. This is one of his chess sets. This piece here and the chair behind him are chairs that Franklin would have sat in. Again, if you're like me and you're this close to one of the founding fathers, it's a pretty exceptional moment. This is the treaty by which the United States Declaration of Independence is recognized and made solid in international law. Anyone has deserved a retirement. I think it's Franklin. And yet, he has some more work that he thinks it's important to do. And he attends as the oldest member of the Constitutional Convention. And again, he's on one of the committees that is just a key turning point in getting the Constitution approved by the convention and later by the state legislature. Again, one of my favorite. I hope I haven't said that every document is my favorite, but there really is just an awful lot of amazing stuff here. If you go into our rotunda, you'll see the 4 parchment sheets which contain the Constitution of the United States. Beautiful calligraphy. That's what was sent up to New York when it was the capital of the United States briefly, along with hundreds of printed copies, of which this was one. Sort of the emblem for them, for many, of Republican, form of government, of representative government, of the fall, successful detachment, right? Successful revolution against absolute monarchy.